Hey guys, it's Matt. Thanks to everybody that went over to Free Voice on Saturday to hear the podcast on the Goldilocks right down the middle reality, and thanks for all the kind words about Cooper as well. Um, what we're going to do today, they certainly won't like. They certainly won't like. You've heard me initially. I started talking about the ability to read the matrix code, but that evolves into abilities or latent abilities pretty much everybody has that's not a complete NPC about you've heard me talk about an inner knowing or inner tuning fork or deciding if something's true based on no research at all, just by running it through your own filters and however you believe that would happen, a connection, a spiritual connection you have that's outside of this place, a connection with higher self, certain aspects of your DNA, know everything. However, we probably disagree on the mechanism on how it would work, but I think almost everybody that would be listening to the sound of my voice or the words that are coming out of my mouth is not going to do it. Is they would everybody here would agree we have abilities that they've suppressed our entire lives. So I thought, okay, is there any sort of bodybuilding? And this is, I'm going to call it inner knowing or inner tuning fork bodybuilding because I'm going to use the word bodybuilding because it's funny, it's ironic, it's the opposite of what we're trying to do. A bodybuilder, all about the body, all about the vehicle, putting their whole. I know I lift. I'm not saying bodybuild. I weight train too, and I always have. And I'm saying like a professional bodybuilder. Their whole lives revolve around the avatar and the aspects of themselves just rooted to this place. So we'll call it bodybuilding out of irony when it's exactly the opposite. But is there a way to develop these skills, these inner knowing, the inner tuning fork, which is similar to originally me talking about reading the matrix code? And I don't have a whole training program worked out yet, but I do have a way to start. I've thought about this carefully, and we're going to start the inner knowing a bodybuilding with this list that I've come up with here. Now, it will help people get attuned to the mechanism inside them that brings forth truth without having to do any research. How many times have we been told, and this is all by design to throw us off, in my opinion, how many times have we been told to do your own research? You know that thing, it's the biggest bunch of bull in the world. It sounds so correct though, so just that even a lot of truth channels would be like, don't trust me, do your own research. And I've always said, no, don't do your own research. Run it through your inner knowing filters if they're properly developed, and we're going to come up with some techniques today to help everybody develop them. Mine are, in terms of what they could be, way underdeveloped. I need to do a ton of work in this area as well. No, Bootsy, no. I don't know if you can hear her crying or not, but come up here then. So everybody needs to develop these abilities, and if you are dealing with a system or what we call the matrix or the system or the not milk reality that doesn't want any human being expressing these abilities, then you just throw out as much as you can. You put it right in the truth community to do your own research. This is a big Glenn Beck thing. A big Glenn Beck thing has always been do your own, don't trust me, do your own research. And as we watched Glenn Beck, I watched him religiously on Fox in, I'd say, I don't know, 2008, 2009, that area, maybe even 2010. I think he was on Fox still, not his own little Blaze network. And I'd be, oh, that's very, very smart and just of him to suggest we do our own research. It sounded very good, but it's an absolute manipulation technique. And you've always said, no, don't do your own research. Well, either trust me because I've developed a degree of trust over 10 years that I've kind of worked it out, or run it through your own filters. Do your own research. What are you going to do? Go into the system's mechanisms and means for deception? You got to go into search engines and the Library of Congress and determine truth? It's not even possible anymore. So it's another little flag if you ever hear a truth channel talking about that, in addition to pushing fear, and another reason to turn off some of these channels. So, guys, before we start, this isn't even related, but it's funny shit. Um, I was looking, I'm constantly touching up the book and adding a little bit here and a little bit there, and somehow Warner von Braun's, and I'll get through, this is just funny. I'll move on to the inner knowing, inner tuning for bodybuilding in just a moment. Um, Werner von Braun's gravestone. We've all seen it, and it references, is it Psalms 19:1 about the firmament? But that's not why we all know that, we've all seen that. That's not why I'm mentioning it. I looked up and I said, well, okay, we've seen this gravestone a million times. When did Werner von Braun die? And it turns out 1977. Like, well, that's when Star Wars came out. So I looked. I said, did he have the opportunity to? The systems. First of all, I thought the systems. You know what I think. The systems playing games. Like, Werner von Braun dies the year that Star Wars is coming out. What are the chances? What are the chances of this? And sorry, the phone's ringing. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if it was like the same day or the same week? So I looked it up. Werner von Braun died 3 weeks after Star Wars came out. So he would have had the opportunity to see Star Wars. And then you had Philip K. Dick in the presentation that I was referring to a few videos back, saying he saw Star Wars that morning in his 1977 presentation. But it's just funny to think that you have Werner von Braun and all of that. The whole foundation for people believing in the space program all was laid through that, the Operation Paperclip and the Werner von Braun stuff. And then he passes just right about the same time they come out with Star Wars. And I'm not going to go too conspiratorial, guys. This is getting into loony bin land. But I know a lot of you listening to me right now, you're like, oh, you've seen it. We've been doing this long enough where a lot of you are like, yeah, they're capable of that. They're capable of he went off to his own private Idaho, maybe his own. I'm getting so out of control conspiratorial. I want to say that at first, but then when I really think of it, and I do whatever research I can do, and I run it through my own inner knowing and my own inner tuning for it, it almost always turns out to be pretty correct. So you almost can't go too far, and when you almost can't go too far, you come up with stuff like you put on an old classic radio station, and the B-52 is my own private. The B-52 is my own private Idaho. I'm like, could they be singing about the landmass that exists that doesn't show up on the Mercator map where potentially Prince is right now? This is just anybody listening to me that doesn't run in our circles would think I'm absolutely out of my mind. But we've gotten to the point. The conspiracy is so far down the sliding scale. The way the reality works is so far down the sliding scale that it's not bridgeable anymore to anybody that's considered normal. So it would be we're going to continuously talk about things that are just so far outside the possible reality of the guy down the cul-de-sac that there's no bridging. There's no possible way. Somebody's screaming at me saying, "Well, Matt, we couldn't get him to see anything anyway. There was no bridging it in the first place." I agree, but at least they wouldn't be labeling you as a complete lunatic. Like, okay, if this guy wants to do research on the Kennedy, the Debbie Does Dallas Plaza. Well, that's his prerogative. It's just one level of lunatic up. We're now again talking about things that people can't possibly even fathom. Me talking about John McEnroe claiming you cannot be serious at the Linesman is an ode to their controller star in astrology around Sirius. So and all of us at this point we're going like, yeah, that's how they do business. We just shake our heads like it's completely normal, which it is. We understand how they do business. We sniff how they do business. But to anybody else, just so I was just funny. Werner von Braun, he would have been able to go into the theater just a few weeks before. Maybe he went off to his own private Idaho and watched Star Wars. Funny. Anyway, it was just fun. I started laughing when I saw the dates that were so close together. That's very insensitive of you, Matt. Well, I don't. Does the man who perpetrated the biggest fraud of almost of all time, the original fraud of what Mercury, Apollo, and Gemini were all about, does he deserve that sort of respect? I don't think so. Anyway, so guys, I do have some notes for this one. Never do your own research. No, just run it through your own inner knowing and develop your own inner knowing abilities. And again, it relates to my original phrase on this was being able to read the matrix code, which has evolved into other things. And you get into things when it's honed, and most people here, I mean, we're at a certain level inside truth where most people here watching this have it pretty honed, but we all would agree we can do a lot better. But you turn on the news, 4 or 5 days ago, or maybe it was like 3 or 4 days ago was the first time I heard of it. The ship, the ship that's blocking Suez, and the Suez Canal, by the way, is where at the port of Said is where they originally, per the history of it, where they originally wanted to put the Statue of Liberty. They offered it to Egypt first. And if anybody's saying, "Well, Matt, what you just said not to trust history, now you're citing history," that's a history. That's a history laid down by the system on purpose. That we're getting. I don't want to get into a whole other topic. If they're going to present something they convinced everybody is about complete freedom and liberty and fleeing oppression and finding a land with free from prosecution, if they're going to present it that way, then per the way this reality works, so they're going to have to lay the history down that shows it wasn't even intended for that. That's just how they almost have to do business. So that's I don't think that doesn't violate the principle I talked about earlier. But is it the point is when I saw the news about what's going on, I mean I knew nothing about it, but I just ran it through my tuning fork, or wherever inner knowing comes from, in like 5 seconds. Like, that's complete BS. And if somebody were to have asked me, "Well, how do you know? What do you mean it's BS? You just heard about it 5 seconds ago. You know nothing about it." I don't need to. And then, I'm not patting myself on the back, but as it played out over the next few days, people send me things like the names of the tugboats. I mean, it played. Of course, we know now. Now, if you go out there, yeah, there's it's not like there's not a ship there. Yeah, but it's all by design. It's all part of what's going on now, the greater scheme of what's going on with the major event now related to what the Global Economic Forum is calling the Great Reset. It's all Great Reset. It's all part of it. So the ship. You go out there, yeah, you'll see something blocking something. But if when you develop your inner knowing, inner tuning fork, very, very quickly, if not immediately, you can just kind of sniff it and go, "Yeah, it's bull crap," just without any research, and we all have the ability to do that. And sometimes we'll still be wrong. I've put even since I learned about the ship, a couple of people have sent me some emails. I've put maybe a few more minutes into looking into it, and just those few more minutes, you know, triply confirm or 100 times over confirm that it's just all part of the rigged reality that's being presented now. One facet in the inhuman way, complete inhuman way that it's laid out. So, guys, let's start some of these. Let's just do the entry to inner knowing or inner tuning for bodybuilding. I figured the best way to go about this is to go over a short list where almost everybody would agree with our general understanding of what the answers to these questions, for example, would be. We all would agree. But the idea is, as we do this, to get a sense as to where that information is coming from. And of course, it's an intentional deception inside the truth community has been about putting in the research, putting in the time, and that analysis, anything that the frontal lobes can achieve, studying things. When I think this is also a reason why a ton of truth is given away inside the truth community. They're fine as long as they're applying their frontal lobes and their brain power and their logic and thought, and that's they will eventually find out this is all not real. It's fine. Let them find out that's all not real. If they use those processes, logic, to come up with the answer, they're missing their true power. So they're not going to like this very much. Now we'll know the answers, but let's just start so you know where I'm going. Okay, again, you'll know the answers to these, but the process is what's important. Then the process will lead us to answering of bigger questions. So, question number one, do you believe that ancient cultures, pick one, the Sioux Indians or the Mayans of Central or South America, or the Aborigines, do you believe ancient cultures, whichever your ancient culture of choice is, knew more about how the world works, knew more about spiritual issues, knew more about what a human being is here to do in this place? Do you think they knew more than we know now in the modern era? And actually, about almost everything. I'll pause for a few seconds. Now, of course, almost all of you that have been looking into the things we look in for a long time are going, yeah, of course, the ancient cultures knew far more in all the areas that are important than modern society does. Or the other part of that is that, or there is a segment of creeps that still have the information that keep it from us. Nevertheless, you know what I'm saying. The point is, you came up with that answer. Are you sure? This is all part of the inner tuning for bodybuilding. Are you sure? People are like, yeah, I'm sure. The ancient cultures knew way more than we know now, other than I was going to say the Hillary Clinton types who are hiding the information. And guess what her code name was? Who shared that with me? Was it Ben that shared with me? Her code name when she was in the White House, for the Secret Service, Hillary Clinton's was Evergreen. So, related? I don't know. So I would say, are you sure the ancient cultures? And people are like, yeah, of course I'm sure. Okay. Now, concentrate. How do you know you're sure? What part of you is sure? This is what the training is all about. Is it this is where we get into people saying, well, my gut feeling told me. Why does that even exist, those terms? There's truth, of course, in that. My gut feeling. The biggest decisions we make in life, it's telling you right there, come from outside of the head or outside of the frontal lobes or the thinking part of the brain. So if you're sure about what the ancient cultures knew, or they knew a lot more than we know now, what part of you is telling you that? I'll pause for 5 seconds. Just get in tune with it. It's somewhere else. Then it's not the logical brain trying to work it out. See, I put a note here. The part of you that understands how to get your driver's license renewed, for example. You might forget the exact steps, but generally you know how to get your driver's license renewed, or if you lose it, what the basic steps would be. That would be the very last place. Whatever told you that, something about how society works, would be the absolute last place to figure out anything important in this world. And some people would say the heart, the gut. Some people would say it comes from somewhere else. It comes from like a connection to somewhere out of here. And I don't have it worked out. I can't tell you exactly where to go to get this information. I can't tell you why, I could see something and be like, that's completely ridiculous. There's just no way. Or, like matrix code type reading. Or we have to get, the mechanism might be a little bit different for each one of us, how we find the inner knowing. So let's just continue to do this. And this is the easy list, guys. And it's funny that if anybody were to come upon this, I mean, we're going to be 100% in agreement on this list. Anybody stumbling upon this will be like, what the heck are these guys talking about? Like, for example, this second one. Person, when you see Melvin P., you know what I'm talking about. Honey, close the gate. Yeah, let the dog out. Close Melvin P. When you see him, or you see, like, for example, in front of Congress, imagine he's presenting as he has in front of Congress, Zuck the Borg, talking about privacy issues, because Congress is so worried about internet privacy, of course. Are they here's the question, and find it in your inner knowing. Find where this is coming from. Are they the same as you? Okay, don't overanalyze what I'm saying. Are they aliens or whatever? I'm just no more, no less. Is Melvin P. with holding up his little, he's smiling. And is he the same as you? But what's, I mean, see, no more, no less, just yes or no. Like, in what sense, Matt? Spiritually, in the same. Don't see. That's the frontal lobes taking over. That's so. Most people that have been doing this a while, most people watching will be like, no, I don't know exactly how they're different, but no, it's that thing is not the same as me. So this is where we get into the inner knowing or the inner tuning fork bodybuilding. Are you sure? And most of you are going, yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Okay, here's the key. How do you know? How do you know? I know too. Of course, it's not the same as me. No way. It doesn't matter, if Tony's told me about a different type of incarnation in this. I mean, I appreciate his information, of course, but all along, and you as well, we know that they're not the same as us. And the key is to get in touch with whenever we're sure about something that's so wild, like that, crazy from the perspective of what your friend would think, your guy down the cul-de-sac, to find out where that absolute surety is coming from. How do you know? And again, it would be the exact opposite of the place that knows how to renew your driver's license. So let's continue using the same methodology, and I'll look at your comments. And people have, in terms of certain practices that employ similar techniques, not in terms of understanding reality, but this sort of thing applied to something else or something in psychology. If yeah, I'll take your advice. I have no training in this. I just get a sense will be helpful, but we'll refine this as time goes on. So let's do this. The 7-Eleven job application, the event in 2001 where you applied to 7-Eleven and you gave in your job application. It was that, in your opinion, about just just things you understand, like people running around with explosives, and just for reasons, more about the reasons that make sense, or first level reasons, like, oh, they needed 20 years of war in the Middle East. That was it's all for that. Was it that, or was it, or would your inner knowing say there's just so much more going on regarding when that job application was filled out? Whatever your understanding, or your whatever your theory may be, there's just something else going on that is very, very hard to explain. Like, people would have theories that it shifted reality itself, or it was a gigantic occult, dark slash magical ritual of some kind. So again, almost everybody watching this video now would say, of course it was far beyond, Matt, the first grade answer, or first grade understanding of, well, they needed that event to go to war, and see, the military industrial complex needs to get paid, and there wasn't a boogeyman because Russia was no longer a threat. So see, that's all first grade. The military industrial complex, like Raytheon and United Technologies and Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop, they needed a boogeyman, and it's all about people getting paid. It's so first grade. And most of you are going, of course it was about way more than that. To shake the fabric of reality itself, of course. Okay, but here's the point: not to bicker on where we agree or disagree about that, but how do you know it was about more than that? And what part of you knows that? And I mean knows it. Get in touch with that. Okay, this is a starting point. We'll refine this. Presidents, we're using the easy questions first, and we're going to get to the harder ones at the bottom of the list here. But are presidents and prime ministers, and the ones and the ones that show up on TV, are they real decision makers? And really, really move the trajectory of their countries how they see fit, or are they just basically guys reading a teleprompter, playing a role, like a puppet? Well, it's obvious to almost everybody that would be watching this that these guys just, these guys, and that the whole I'm going to stray for a second, but the whole teleprompter thing about Barack, how He's just not good on his feet. He's a but in front of a teleprompter, he's a genius, and he can give a speech, and it was all about he was a teleprompter president. That was a truth coming out, that not just about Barack, but all of them. It's a teleprompter job title. It's a teleprompter job title. That's all it is. I mean, that's why you can put bigger and bigger buffoons into the position. They don't. We know they don't decide on anything. But okay, are you sure? Almost everybody watching this, with the exception of a few, are going, of course, they're just puppets. They're not even allowed to stray from the teleprompter. They're not even allowed to add an exclamation point when one should occur, or as they're reading. That would be going outside of the bounds of what they're supposed to do. So we know that, but what part of you just knows it? Is it just about figuring it out logically that, well, a real president, that's part of it? I'm not saying the logical mind or the frontal lobes are completely useless. Of course, you can say logically, if a candidate is going to talk about getting the United States out of Afghanistan, and then whether it be, by the way, they all did. Trump did. Hillary and Barack both did before especially Hillary and Barack. Remember before, because it was always coming off the back of George W. And logically you could say, well, because not only did they just not get the United States out, they kind of ramped it up. Well, that logically that means they couldn't possibly be, maybe making the ultimate decisions. Okay, the logical mind has a role, but has to be kept in check. The real answers to the biggest questions don't come in this area. And whenever you're going down that route, say, well, okay, well, that, just use that as a tool, not as the way to form a conclusion about the ultimate truth. So, I mean, this is where you get into things like the story of the founding fathers. Is this some sort of a crafted storybook presentation, or is everything about Ben Franklin and George Washington completely real? And I can't say any more, because this will be they will hit this video. This was a similar cause to the last time I couldn't talk to you for a month. Was it a month? No. Was it a month? No, it was just a week, I guess. They wouldn't. Yeah, luckily it was just a week where I couldn't post. But most people, like, inner knowing, would be like, yeah, I just feel deep down it's too much of a fairy tale. The quotes are too perfect about liberty, and yeah, you know that, but where's it coming from? And then the last one on our list of the, where this is one we really would all agree on, the cures to all sorts of ailments and disease. The cures, not the band. He should, boy, the Robert Smith. What did he do to his hair? God, that's his hair. He's an ugly man, that Robert Smith. Very talented individual. Do they have the cures? Not the band. The Pink Month and the I don't know what I can say. I'm sorry. That's why we're going over to freevoice.io. Do they have, for most major things? Do you believe they have the cures? Is there a reason why? Think of all of these guys in their ages. The Queen's husband. It's like, well, why isn't he the king? But the prince, he's like 150. George Soros is like 180. Warren Buffett is like 210. All these. What do you have? Just this huge long list of these people living to their late 80s, 90s. The Queen is now in her mid 90s, and we all have to just. It's almost obvious that these people have had many of these ailments, and they're given the cure. The cures exist. We all agree the cures exist for. I think most people watching would be like, they have the cure for most things. They can put, assuming any of these missions in the late '60s, where Tom Hanks flew around with Bill Paxton, and assuming any of that was even real, which of course It's a joke, of course, but they would say there's 100,000 times the computing power in your pocket today, 100,000 times the computing power in your pocket in your phone than the entire system had access to send Tom Hanks up in his Bradford White water heater in the 60s. So all of those exponential gains in every area, but no cures for anything in the last 50 years. And see, if anybody's saying, well, Matt, you can logically work that out in your mind, and that's kind of the mistake I'm making now, because the idea is to just know it and just say, of course they have the cures. And you know that. I know that. And not to logically work it out. Like, yeah, well, logically, they had all these, they actually cured a bunch of stuff between 1900 and 1950. But then nothing after that? That doesn't make any logical sense. Okay, that's an important tool. But I'm talking about just knowing it. We know it. They have the cures. We know they have free energy. Petro, whatever could go. Putting gas in your car could go away in 6 months. Could convert everything over to the free energy that exists. We just know it. And what part of you? Where did that come from? And then as soon as you really hone and determine where that came from, then it's like a little trickle of water that's getting through a blocked hose, a clogged hose. Greg once told me take my power washer apart. It was like it gets the power wash. It gets such a fine little thing for the nozzle. If anything gets in there on the inside, I mean, the whole thing is clogged up. But once you start getting water through, meaning you're getting truth from an inner knowing source, then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you imagine it getting bigger. When you just know something, you could even talk to yourself without even truly knowing. Say, the part of me that just knew that, I didn't have to do any research. The part of me that just knew that, or even from a synchronicity standpoint, I knew this was going to happen. That's all related. When someone says, I walked around the corner, I just kind of expected this, or whatever it might be. Say, okay, wherever that came from, body working with consciousness, working with spiritual self, I want that to be more and more developed. So in other words, you can almost tell yourself to develop it, and I think parts of you can work on those abilities without even you being consciously aware they're being worked on, if that is your intention. So you get into things like the event on the news, the big thing about 2 years ago, which I call Steiner. I'm gonna have to call Steiner. It was on the news. Epsteiner. Once your inner knowing is flowing and it's gushing, and you can just tap into it whenever you need to. This is related to the P gate. You could just look at these things and be like, this is ridiculous. We haven't researched. I don't need to. It's ridiculous. So you just know. No, with almost 100% certainty. Epsteiner. What are you saying? What part of that was the whole thing? Was crafted, part of the reality show. You don't believe there's a Lolita Island? As I said, the whole thing was crafted. What do they get out of it? That's not the point of getting. They do business on. It's everything basically is a triple presentation or a triple conspiracy. We're not going to talk about that right now. What they get out of it, or the as I said before, the P, the DiGiorno gate. DiGiorno, it's not delivery. It's DiGiorno gate. They were able to, they actually were able to protect the sick practices by using something like that. On the surface, it seemed like, well, why would they expose themselves? It absolutely worked to their advantage. But that's, again, let's just move on. So you get into things that are a little bit more complicated, like the solar. Once your inner knowing's flowing, your inner tuning fork's flowing, the solar eclipse, complete solar eclipse. You could just look at it and be within, and I'm not. I know most people here have these abilities. I'm just helping us move these abilities forward. When I'm going to say something now, it's like, well, Matt, what don't you're not the only one that knows this. I know, I know. I don't mean to, if you just talk on the fly for so many minutes or hours, you're going to say things the wrong way. So don't take it wrong. But just hear me out. For the eclipse, for example, I was going to say at some point when I was, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, I was looking into eclipses. I've never seen one. Even I was convinced by certain truth channels for was it 2017, the first American eclipse. I was convinced by certain truth channels um, not to watch it, not to experience it, to kind of hide from it. And I believe that's absolutely a mistake at this point. I don't trust those truth channels for a lot of reasons that were saying that. But that's what I believed at the time, and it seemed like good advice. And I just, oh, it's a dark thing, and I just stayed away from it. And I think it's just the opposite now. If you have yourself in a certain place where you can actually benefit from it. But either way, I know what an eclipse is, even though I haven't seen one or haven't experienced the umbra directly. But I can say, or as you can, that there's just no possible way it's two physical bodies moving in front of each other. It's just, in addition to being mathematically, statistically impossible, I put it close to 1 in a trillion. I'm saying forget the statistics. That's the logical reasons why an eclipse isn't what they say it is. I'm saying your inner knowing just says that's not a big ball of rock moving in front of something they call a star. It's not. Well, then what is it? It doesn't matter. I can't. This is We don't always have the answers of what it is. The point is to understand what it's not. And the focus of my channel going forward will be, we'll continue to do things like this, but a big focus of my channel will be the step two and the 3 steps. Okay, we see the presentations are fake, but step two, just using and even doing it in comedic fashion, putting things forth that convince people that the world isn't real at all. I mean, and making basically a joke and a mockery of it whenever possible, which I always remember step three. But step three, you can't do a whole channel based on step three. Well, once you come to the conclusion the world isn't very real, what does that tell you about the ultimate power you have inside yourself? What does that tell you about yourself and your true spiritual nature? Well, that's a half a page. I'll always remind people of that. Once you get there, you can't just do a whole channel on. Once we get there, it's a half page. Once you understand yourself, you understand yourself. But in terms of poking holes into the world or the reality's presentation, how it's trying to pass itself off as real. Everything from from the trivial scale, from the container ship in the canal to, on the other end of the spectrum, something like the eclipse. My focus is going to be on basically step two, and then whenever possible, making a lot of fun of step two and having as much fun with it as possible. And if anybody's saying, "Well, Matt, you said not to get stuck on step two," again, you have to understand. Imagine like I might be like a high school teacher here. You know, there's always new people coming in that need to learn certain things. There's a lot of frustration with people reaching out to me because they would say, "I've covered this before, or I'm getting a little repetitive." It's almost like they've been with me, certain people, but they would expect my channel to continue to progress just with them. It's just all about their level. It's like having the same teacher, first grade through, and we all progress together through PhD level. But that's not, if you're ready to move on and you completely understand who you are, and you completely, you don't need to look back at step two and say that this world's not very real, then that's what my role is. That's what I'm good at. And I would hope I wouldn't lose you, because I'm going to try to have as much fun with step two as possible. Definitely bring more comedy into it, because you just have to make fun of it. I mean, that's really our only choice at this point, is to make fun of it. And it's easy to make fun of. It is that pathetic of a presentation. But I'm not going to continue to try to move. We're kind of at the point where, okay, then hopefully, I mean, I know there's not as many people waking up as we would like. There just isn't. You'd have to wake up a few 100,000 people considering the clown show that they're presenting now. There'd have to be, but the millions and millions coming over it doesn't look like it's happening because of all the reasons we've talked about, the mind control, the download, the whatever metaphysically going on. People are going along for the ride, but there's still going to be a few 100,000 people, and those people, they haven't been doing the truth work that we have for almost 10 years. They need help, and at certain levels they'll need to understand how to act, to tap into their inner knowing, inner tuning fork. So this is a 12th grade teacher in high school has a new crop of kids that come in. He has to teach calculus to. This is kind of my role. I hope you stick with me, because if we're going to make fun of it, but again, you're not going to. People get upset that you're not progressing with me. That's not okay. We'll go find another channel, or the next. That's not what my role is, and I don't have all the answers anyway. I take care of 4 cats. Who the hell am I? So anyway, you understand. So the next, you can apply it to when Geordie Rose's presentation about D-Wave. He comes out and sort of TED Talk. It's all serious. Or, my D-Wave computer. First of all, we take it to the chip to absolute zero. How's that work? And then it reaches into another dimension to to get the answer. And so again, these aren't the easy ones, guys. I'm saying once we have our inner knowing and our inner tuning fork really buzzing, or that little trickle of water, or when truth is coming in from an outside source, we just open it up into a raging river, and the truth just comes to us without any research, without looking into anything, without going to a library, without searching anything in a corrupted search engine. So you get to things like, when I was a year into it, I believed, they really have all this. And then you start to think all that inner knowing and reading the Matrix code comes over, and you're like, it's possible that they have something called a quantum computer, of course. There are just a lot of universities have them. But in terms of what he's saying it's doing, your inner knowing starts saying that this is bullcrap. He's trying to get real spiritual beings to kind of believe him, so then they feed power back into what ultimately he wants to do with this thing. Very similar to the Ray Kurzweil stuff I talked about, where Ray was going around talking about planning we're so close, and he was doing this 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. We're so close to putting a chip into people's brain. And he was also, I think, it was related to him talking about downloading consciousness, but mostly his lectures were about chipping the brain. And he was you've heard me say this before, so I'll keep it brief. He was saying the same canned lines and the same. If he's the expert at Google as the head futurist, you wouldn't need like notes and like reading the same bullet points in the same way. You just talk. And I came to my inner knowing was like, they don't have any of this ready to go. It's all he wants the audience to believe it's right around the corner. If real spiritual beings believe it's right around the corner, then they actually will feed his preferred reality back to him. That's what his Seabiscuit, the back of the caboose roadshow, was all about. And I'm just saying, this is where like an inner knowing will completely override common sense, and you learn to trust your inner knowing so much that it can override any sort of even known reality. I mean, you would imagine if I said that to somebody down the cul-de-sac. So you think this guy is going around the country giving a canned speech. He doesn't know anything much about at all what he's even proposing. He's supposed to be the head guy at Google, but he doesn't know a damn thing about it. And he's doing this to get real people in the audience to believe in it. And by them believing in it, they will actually help manifest it into reality itself. Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying. They're like, what the frick are you talking about, dude? They would think I'm nuts. But inner knowing, like, I know that. I know that's what that speech was for. And a logical presentation of that the logical presentation is nothing. It's a waste of time when your inner knowing is telling you one thing. Logical is a joke. It can't override the gut feeling. The term, oh, I knew in my gut feeling that business decision was bad. That shit exists for a reason. That type of word etymology, or if that's whatever word choice. So then you get into like this linear time really exists. Time, linear time, past, present, and future, where past is completely unchangeable. And as you start opening up your floodgates to inner knowing, you just becomes like crystal clear that linear time doesn't exist. It's all about the limited perception of being in the avatar. Past is probably is I don't this I struggle with, but I was going to say just as fluid as the future, but I'm not quite there yet. But fluid, yes, the past, and I'm saying you can even come to these conclusions from an inner knowing perspective, even without being Mandela affected. If Mandela affected people, of course, yeah, of course I don't believe the past is fixed. I've seen it change right before my eyes. I've had that happen to me a few times where it almost seems to change almost on the fly. My buddy Greg, had it happen with the scene in The Wizard of Oz, where it literally changed right in front of him. Most Mandela affected people don't have those experiences, but they do remember a past that is different from what history or what reality says the past has always been today. Um, and then, then once it's, and I'm just going to wrap this up, guys, but once, and I will look to your comments. There's definitely got to be many, many more techniques where we can really have that. I think the good mental analogy is that little drip of little spigot of inner knowing. How do we open it up? It's like little straw coming through the Hoover Dam. How do we open up in this giant pipe so it's just gushing? Inner knowing is gushing, and once we all have work to do there. So once it's gushing, then there's we'll almost know everything without just by running it through our own filters. And the yin and yang is going on here, guys. They're doing all this to the world. The reset or change over from Pisces to Aquarius or whatever's happening now. Then it is the per the yin and the yang. Then these are the things that we demand for ourselves, that the reality has to give us. If they're gonna try to take all this crap over here, take, bite off, bite off, shit sandwich, then it's got to feed us for those that demand it on the back end. I believe the yin and yang principles. This is my number one. It has to feed those that demand to be rewarded by what's going on and the changes in the world. And this is one area that I think that we are our inner tuning fork, inner knowing is just I've got cats crying at me like you wouldn't believe. It is becoming that pipe in the Hoover Dam that's just getting bigger and bigger and it's gushing. So eventually, we'll be able to apply it to anything, like Prince's death. We're gonna do a funny Bootsy. We're gonna do a funny, or I'm gonna do a funny presentation about related to Prince and the Queen's birthday, both on 421. It's almost like the Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities. It's that absurd in terms of what are the chances that Prince, that's a royal title. Purple Rain, Rain, Purple Reign. Both Prince dies on the Queen's birthday, so the whole world's lit up in purple for two different reasons. So there's a whole I'm going to adopt a lot of the what are the chances section of the book, and I'm going to adopt a lot of if the word were real into mini presentations for videos with a comedic element because it deserves to be laughed at. But the point is, once you get your inner knowing flowing, we know whatever Prince's death is. I mean, even first grade truther would be like, no, he didn't just die on the Queen's birthday. I mean, of course. So there's only two options, at least from what we can perceive in this reality. Maybe there's other options outside of our perception, but it seems like to us there would only be two options. Either Prince was ritualistically killed. He didn't just die, of course, the day of the Queen's birthday. It's just, that is ridiculous. So he was mad. A lot of the truth community mad. He was killed. A lot of people, they know they pay a price for their fame. Okay, yeah, we've been, I'm aware of that. But then the other side would be, the people that say after Bowie supposedly died. They said the guy showed up. That the guy that was in an interview you've seen it where he looks just like Bowie. He's supposed to be some Spin Magazine or I don't know one of these experts on rock and roll history. Just looks just like Bowie, and people, of course, in the truth community pointed at him like that's Bowie, dude. So I still haven't worked out whether, like Prince, for example, whether it is a I favor that most of these people are alive. I really do. I favor that, like, my inner knowing tells me that they are alive. I hope I didn't just go mute. That they are alive, not ritualistically killed off. I think it's possible that it doesn't mean if anybody's saying that it's not all or none. It's not one or the other. It can be both. It okay, it could be both. But for Bowie, for example, he supposedly had cancer, but there's no pictures of him looking bad. And if you looked at the music he did, was it Lazarus Rising from the Dead? He did the song Lazarus right before his death, and then Black Star. Some of the creepiest videos you'll ever see. Watch the Bowie. Go pull that up on YouTube. And Prince, with the whole Queen's birthday thing, and we found in the elevator, all symbolism. But again, my inner knowing isn't good enough for this one yet. I favor that the B-52s their own private Idahos somewhere. There's probably several places. They give us this dumbed down ass Mercator map. This is the world, asshole. And then well, where would they go, Matt? These are all populated places. Well, there's probably a whole friggin' landmass or two or three or four on they don't show on a map. That's almost a given at this point. Like stories of John Kerry. Um, well, sorry, I was going to say something, but we'll just continue. Stories of John Kerry going off to visit Antarctica the day of the election, Hillary versus Trump, in that crafted stage show. A big story was John Kerry goes off to visit Antarctica, and of course he didn't go visit Antarctica on the day. It was part of somehow that had to be inserted into the script for whatever reason. But it could be these truths have to be hinted at or dropped from time to time, and it could be he had to go off and visit the ruler of the world in the continent that doesn't exist on the Mercator map or the Peters projection. Maybe that was it. And I said, well, let's drop some truth. Tell him John Kerry's he's going to go see the penguins in our Antarctica the day of the election. I mean, again, there's creepy reasons for all this stuff why they do business, and a big theme of this channel is we don't have to know. All we have to do is realize that. Well, where did he go, Matt? They're trying to figure it out. It's such a waste of time. That's what I'm saying when I say this channel will focus on stage 2. It will be more about getting the people that want to be at this level of truth honed to when they see an article like John Kerry the day before the election. John Kerry traveling to Antarctica, and he will be traveling to Antarctica the day of the election. The honing of the inner knowing, where someone go, "That's bullshit. That's just complete bullshit." Well, somebody sitting next to you on the train will be like, "Well, if it's bullshit, where's he going? Who cares? I don't need to know. All I need to know is he's not going to Antarctica, and this is some sort of part of the creepy script that's being laid down. But what's the purpose then if they're maybe he's not going anywhere if he's part of the creepy script and it just has to be inserted around the election. What's the plan for doing that? Who knows? Who cares? We'll never know. Who cares? All I can do is immediately point at it and tell you it's bullcrap. And that's the type of skill that I need to get better at myself, and we all can do better. And a main part of my presentations will be to continue to hone that skill. And many people watching this are very, very advanced. But I would say again, if this was like a high school K through 12 in terms of Matt's ability to read the matrix code, inner knowing, I'm K through 12, I'm a 10th grader or a ninth grader. I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to do. Usually, when something is clearly, when I see something, my inner knowing says this is the case. I don't think I'm usually wrong. It's very very accurate. But I think what I'm saying is I have a lot of work to do because I'll miss a lot. Like when I see it, and I think I'm pretty accurate. But I think there's a lot of things that's just outside of our perception that we need to hone these skills so we see a whole lot more. So a whole lot more doesn't get past us. That's what I'm saying. So, guys, this was just the first attempt at the inner knowing, inner tuning for Read the Matrix Code Bodybuilding. I'm sure there's going to be some great comments that help us, refine these techniques so we do better. But, you know, I thought about this. Look, how come nobody's doing this? How come I never did this before? How come, these are skills that we all need to work on, and we'll continue to do that in between making fun of the clown show presentation. The was it Killer Clowns from Outer Space? That's basically the reality we're living in. Thanks, guys.